Hello, hello, hello. This morning. Hello, hello. So please hit the like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate everybody coming in. Appreciate everybody coming in before this big decision today, right? You know what made me decide to do this video? The confusion. Not because everybody seemed to want to know. I kept hearing people say the Supreme Court is about to get rid of the 14th Amendment. Then I hear somebody else say they're coming after Black people. Then somebody else would say, no, they're just trying to stop anchor babies. Then somebody say something about this is an immigration case. And I finally said, okay. All four of y'all cannot be correct about the 14th Amendment because today the Supreme Court is giving us the decision that they have made regarding the 14th Amendment, birthright citizenship. So I said, somebody's got to be leaving stuff out about what this 14th Amendment means. So I did something that I wish more people would do. I stopped listening to the politicians, the media. I stopped listening to people who clearly had not read the Constitution. And I went looking for the answers myself. Do you know what I found? This entire national argument, all these news stories, all these politicians arguing, millions of people debating online. It's all over one sentence. One sentence. I remember just sitting there staring at my screen. Wait a minute, that's all? That's what we've been fighting over? One sentence in the Constitution? Then I had another question. Well, what does that sentence actually say? And that's when I realized something. Most of us, including me, before I started digging into this, right, have spent more time listening to other people explain the 14th Amendment than we've actually spent reading the 14th Amendment. Think about it. We watch debates, we watch YouTube video, we watch Donald Trump, we don't watch countless of Congress people, cable news, you name it, fight about it. But how many of us actually opened the Constitution and read the words for ourselves? Not a lot. And I think that's exactly why so many people are confused. Because once I started reading it, I realized people are mixing together three completely different conversations. Here's the text. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any laws which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. This was a big debate a couple months ago. No, nor shall a person be deprived, no state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. That was the big immigration thing. Without due process of law, regardless of whether you're a citizen or not, you still have to go through the process. You cannot do it without due process of law, nor deny to any person within our borders the equal protection of the laws. And this was the big debate. They kept saying, well, you're an immigrant, or you're an immigrant, or you're illegally here, you don't have the rights. No, any person within our jurisdiction, within our border, gets to have due process of law. Okay? One conversation is about immigration, another conversation is about birthright, and another conversation is about Black American history. People are throwing all three of these things in the same pot, thinking they're about the same thing. They are not. And here's the part that surprised me the most. The reason that sentence exists in the Constitution has nothing to do with why people are arguing about it today. I'll say that again. The reason it was written and the reason it's being debated today are two completely different stories. That made me stop and think, because I thought, hold on, if that's true, then somewhere along the way, we've skipped the history. And if you skip the history, you're probably going to misunderstand the present. So that's what I want to talk to you about today. I'm not here to convince you to support President Trump. I'm not here to convince you to oppose President Trump. I'm here to tell you what immigration policy should be according to the Constitution. Reasonable people can disagree about all of this. What I want to answer is something much simpler. Why are we actually deciding? What are we actually deciding? Why are they only talking about one part of the 14th Amendment instead of the whole thing? Today, we're going to get the decision from the Supreme Court regarding birthright citizenship. Today, the decision is 3 decisions coming down today, hopefully today, and one of them is regarding birthright citizenship. And that's only one part of the 14th Amendment. Why did this amendment mean so much to Black Americans? And why are so many people saying they're afraid Black citizens could somehow lose their citizenship? By the end of this conversation, you may still disagree with the Supreme Court, but before I end this, I want to leave y'all with one final thought. I think we've gotten into a bad habit in this country. We let politicians tell us what the Constitution says. Then we let cable news tell us what the politicians meant. Then we let social media tell us what cable news said. By the time it gets to us, we're arguing over something that may or may not even be true. That's exactly what happened with the 14th Amendment. I keep hearing people say, they're getting rid of the 14th Amendment. They're getting rid of the 14th Amendment. That means they're trying to get rid of you Black people. No, they're not. Then I hear people say, this doesn't matter. It's only about illegal immigrants. Well, that's not entirely true either. It does matter. It matters because whenever the Supreme Court interprets the Constitution, that matters. Citizenship matters. The Constitution matters. History matters. But we also have to be disciplined enough to understand exactly what question is being asked. So that's what changed for me. When I first started hearing about this case, I thought they were arguing over the entire amendment, the entire 14th Amendment. They are not. Then I thought maybe they were trying to change everybody's citizenship. They are not. Then I realized they're arguing over one sentence. And inside that one sentence in the Constitution, they're really arguing over one phrase. That's a whole lot different than what people have been saying online. Now, does that mean you have to agree with the Supreme Court? Nope. If they rule one way, some people are going to celebrate. If they rule the other way, some people are going to celebrate. That's politics. But let politics keep you, but don't let them keep you from understanding the law, okay? Because here's what I keep coming back to. This amendment was born out of one of the darkest chapters in American history. It came after slavery. It came after the Dred Scott decision. It came after Black people were told they could never be citizens. That means every time I hear somebody mention the 14th Amendment, I don't just hear an immigration debate. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe, guys. Please hit the like on the video, subscribe to the channel, please, and thank you. I have discussions like this every day. I hear history. I hear the voices of people who spent generations fighting just to be recognized as Americans. I hear the amendment that finally said no more. No more denying citizenship because of race. No more pretending Black people don't belong in this country they helped to build. That's why I think Black Americans pay attention whenever the 14th Amendment becomes part of the national conversation. Not because we're expecting to wake up tomorrow and be deported. Not because we think the Constitution is disappearing overnight, but because we understand what this amendment was meant to our history. Now, as for the immigration debate, that's a conversation America's going to keep having. People are going to disagree. Some people believe birthright citizenship should stay exactly the way it's been understood for generations. Other people believe the Constitution should be interpreted differently. Those arguments are not going away anytime soon. But whatever side you're on, please argue the facts. Read the Constitution. Read the Supreme Court opinion when it comes out today. Understand what the court actually said, not what somebody on Facebook claims it said, or YouTube or whatever. Read it, because the Constitution belongs to all of us. The Supreme Court is giving us the decision regarding birthright citizenship today. We're going to get that decision. That's only one part of the 14th Amendment. They're not getting rid of the 14th Amendment. They're getting rid of, or they may keep the same one particular part about birthright citizenship. That's it. The 14th Amendment will still be there. Black people will still have that protection, or white people, or whoever. Okay? The Constitution belongs to all of us, okay? Not just the judges and the politicians or the Republicans or the Democrats. Not just lawyers, all of us. And if we're going to call ourselves informed citizens, then we owe it to ourselves to understand the document that's at the center of these debates. I don't expect everybody watching this video to agree with me. I don't care. That's not the point. The point is that after today, when somebody tells you they're getting rid of the 14th Amendment, you'll know enough to say, hold on, that's not what's happening. That's not exactly what's happening. You'll be able to inform whoever that's not what happened. When somebody says Black Americans are about to be deported, you'll know why that isn't the legal issue before the court. That's not happening. And when somebody says this is only about immigration, you'll know enough history to say, no, this amendment started with something much bigger than that. To me, that's what being an informed citizen should look like. Not repeating talking points, understand them. And that's a responsibility every one of us has to have. Before I end this, I want to leave y'all with one final thought, though. I think we've gotten into a bad habit in this country. We let politicians tell us what the Constitution says. Then we let cable news tell us what the politicians meant. No, by the time it gets to us, we're arguing over something that may or may not even be true. That's exactly what happened with the 14th Amendment. I keep hearing people say they're getting rid of the 14th. No, they're not. Then I hear people say it doesn't matter. It's only immigration. Well, it's not entirely true. All of these things matter. History matters. But we also have to be disciplined enough to understand to ask the right questions. Okay? When I first started hearing this cat, I thought they were arguing over the entire amendment. They're only arguing over one sentence. That's a whole lot different than what people have been saying online. Now, does that mean you have to agree with the Supreme Court? No, we don't. We are going to hear their decision today. Okay? No more pretending Black people don't belong in the country they helped build. That's bullshit. Stop saying it. Okay? Stop saying it. Okay? We have to listen to what they're going to say today. They're going to make a decision about the 14th Amendment. This right here, let me say, why was this amendment written in the first place? Because if you don't know why something exists, you're probably going to misunderstand what it's supposed to do. So I started digging, and this amendment wasn't written because America was worried about people crossing the southern border. It wasn't written because people were overseas or overstaying their visas. It wasn't written because politicians were arguing about birth tourism. None of that was the reason. The reason was us Black people. That surprised me. I knew the 14th Amendment had something to do with slavery. I knew it had something to do with civil rights, but I didn't realize just how directly connected it was to Black citizenship. See, after the Civil War ended and slavery was abolished, Congress had a problem. Now, before I say that, let me be clear. Black people weren't the problem. The Constitution was, because the Constitution, as it has been interpreted by the Supreme Court, had already failed Black people. Years before the Civil War ended, the Supreme Court decided the Dred Scott case. And I don't care what your politics are, that decision is still one of the ugliest decisions ever written by the Supreme Court. The court basically said in the Dred Scott case that Black people, even free Black people, could not be citizens of the United States. That was the decision that came down from the Supreme Court through the Dred Scott case. Think about this. Just sit with it just for a second. You're born here. Your parents are born here. Your grandparents are born here. You've never called another country home. And the highest court in the land, American land, says, nope, you don't belong here. Can you imagine hearing that shit? Can you imagine serving in this country, working in this country, building in this country, and somebody tells you that you legally don't even belong here? That's what Congress was trying to fix. See, this is the part that changed how I looked at today's debate. The 14th Amendment was put into place to change that Dred Scott decision. The Dred Scott decision said you didn't belong here. Regardless of whether you were American, Black American, you didn't belong here. The 14th Amendment was put into place to correct that. That's what Congress was fixing. Okay, this is the part that changed how I looked at today's debate. The citizenship clause wasn't originally written because Congress was thinking about goddamn immigration. It was written because Congress wanted to make sure this country could never again deny citizenship to formerly enslaved Black people and their children. That's the history. That's why the first sentence says what it says. Now, here's where history starts bumping into today's politics. The same sentence, the one written after slavery, the one written to overturn Dred Scott, the one written to guarantee citizenship, is the exact same sentence everybody is fighting over today. Not because anybody is arguing about slavery, because now people are asking whether the same sentence also guarantees citizenship to children born here whose parents are undocumented or only here temporarily. See how we got here? The words haven't changed. The question has. That's why I keep saying people are having three different conversations at the same time. Black Americans hear the 14th Amendment and think about citizenship after slavery. Immigration activists hear the 14th Amendment and think about birthright citizenship. Politicians hear the 14th Amendment and think about border security. Same amendment, same sentence, three completely different perspectives. And that brings us to the question that's sitting in front of the Supreme Court today. We're getting that decision sometime today. Soon enough, it should be coming out within the next 2 hours. We should get the decision on birthright citizenship, that flagship amendment in the Constitution that Donald Trump wants to overturn. We're going to see whether he gets it overturned today or not. They decide, they bring out their opinion today. So that's why I'm having this video ahead of them and the decision. Okay. What did Congress actually mean when it wrote that one little sentence? Subject to the jurisdiction of. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Believe it or not, those 6 words are carrying the weight of this entire argument. That's where we're going next. Now, here's where this whole thing gets interesting, though. Everything, lawsuits, politicians, cable news, social media fight, it all comes down to that one phrase, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That's it. I remember thinking, really, this whole country is arguing over 6 words? Apparently, yes. Now, let me tell you how both sides are looking at this, because I think this is where people stop listening to each other. One side says it's simple. If you're born in America, you're born in America. Period. Point blank. They say if you're living here, you're under American law. Let me ask you something, though. If somebody comes here on a tourist visa and gets pulled over for speeding, who writes that ticket? A police officer in America. If somebody here illegally commits a crime, who arrests them? American people, American police. If they go to court, whose courtroom are they standing in? An American courtroom. If they go to jail, whose jail is it? An American jail. So that side says, how can you tell me something isn't under American jurisdiction when American law applies to them every single day they're here? That's the argument. Now, the other side says, wait a minute, you're leaving out something important. They say, the other side says, the people who wrote the 14th Amendment weren't just talking about whether American law applies to you. They were talking about political allegiance. In other words, where's your permanent loyalty? Their argument is that if someone is only here temporarily or is here unlawfully, their legal allegiance is still to another country. And because of that, they say the citizenship clause wasn't meant to automatically cover every child born in the United States, regardless of his parents' status. Now, whether you agree with it or not, at least now you know what the actual argument is. See how different that is from what we've been hearing online? Online, it sounds like they're trying to erase the Constitution. That's not the legal question. The legal question is, what did Congress mean when it wrote those words almost 160 years ago? Now, here's something else I found interesting. People keep saying the Supreme Court is deciding the whole 14th Amendment. No, they are not. Think about your house. If somebody says they want to remodel your kitchen, are they tearing down your whole house? No, they're talking about one room. The 14th Amendment works the same way. Everybody keeps talking about it like it's one big paragraph. It's not. The part we're talking about today is called the Citizenship Clause. That's one part. Then you have the Due Process Clause. That's 2 parts. Then you have the Equal Protection Clause. That's the 3rd part. Today's case is about the Citizenship Clause, not the Due Process Clause, not the Equal Protection Clause. 3 parts of the 14th Amendment. They're talking about one part today. They're deciding on one part today. That's it. Supreme Court is not asking whether to get rid of due process. They're not asking whether to get rid of equal protection. They're not asking whether Black American citizens are still citizens. None of those questions are before the court. None of those questions matter because those are not what they're talking about. They're not making decisions on those today. They're deciding whether this one clause about citizenship should be interpreted differently than it has been for generations. Now, that doesn't mean the decision isn't important. It absolutely is, because citizenship is one of the biggest questions our country can answer. Who belongs? Who becomes an American the moment they're born? That's a huge question, but it's still one question, not 10. And I think that's where we've gotten ourselves into trouble. We've taken one constitutional question, mixed it together with immigration, okay? Mixed that together with race, mixed it together with politics. And now people are scared because they don't know where one conversation ends and one begins. So let's separate them. Let's talk about what this actually means for Black Americans, because I've seen one question come up over time again and again. TPP, if they change this, can they deport us Black people? I understand why people are asking that. But once I dug into the law, I realized the answer isn't nearly as simple or as scary as people have been making it sound. Let's walk through that together. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe button. I never get enough likes or anything else on my page, and I give this good information every day. I appreciate you hitting the like button for the information. Please and thank you. So let's deal with the question that made me want to do this video in the first place. Can they deport Black Americans in the Supreme Court if the Supreme Court changes how it interprets this citizenship clause? I've seen that question everywhere. I've seen people genuinely scared. I've seen people saying they're coming for us next. I've even seen people saying if they can reinterpret one part of the 14th Amendment, what's stopping them from taking it all away? Those are real fears, but they're not all the same question. So let's separate them. First, if you're a Black American who is already a United States citizen, this case is not about taking away your citizenship. It has nothing to do with you. That's not the question the Supreme Court is being asked. The Supreme Court was asked a specific question about the 14th Amendment that has nothing to do with Black people. Remember where we started? This case is about whether certain children born in the future, this is a question that is being answered today by the Supreme Court. People born into the future has nothing to do with current people. We're talking about people born in the future. This is what the court is deciding today. People born in the future, not people born today, not people already here. It has nothing to do with you people that are already here. This has to do with people that will be born here. Do these people born here, born into the future, are they automatically becoming United States citizens under the citizenship clause? That is what the court will answer today. It is not asking whether millions of Black Americans who have been recognized as citizens for generations suddenly aren't citizens anymore. That's not the question. Those are two completely different legal questions. Now, let me ask you something. When people say they're going to deport Black people, I'll always come back with another question. Deport us where? Seriously, where? If your family has been here for generations, if your parents are American citizens, your grandparents were American citizens, your great-grandparents were American citizens, what country exactly is supposed to take you? People say the word deport like it's magic. It's not. Deportation is part of immigration law. It's used to remove people who are not legally entitled to remain in the United States. American citizens aren't supposed to be deported because they're American citizens. Now, could the government ever make a mistake? Yeah. History tells us governments make mistakes. There have been rare cases where U.S. citizens were wrongly detained by immigration authorities. Those cases are serious. They're also the exception, not the rule. And when they happen, the courts are there to correct those. Now, here's another thing I learned. The 14th Amendment doesn't just talk about citizenship. Remember, I told you this amendment has different rooms in the same house, 3 different rooms in the same house. Citizenship, due process, and equal protection. Okay? Well, the citizenship clause comes first. Don't let the legal words scare you. Due process simply means the government has to play by the rules. That's what due process means. Think about your own life. Would you want the government to knock on your door tomorrow morning and say, pack your shit, you got to get out, without ever showing you any evidence? The government can't do that without letting you talk to a lawyer, without letting a judge hear your case. Of course not. That's what due process protects people from. Foreign people, anybody that's within the jurisdiction of the United States, they have to have due process, regardless of whether they're citizens or not. Okay? Government doesn't just get to make a life-changing decision because somebody in the power woke up in a bad mood. There are rules, there are courts, there are processes. There's where equal protection comes into play too. And I think this is one of the most beautiful promises in the Constitution. Equal protection says government can't play favorites under the law. It can't decide that one race gets one set of rules while another race gets a completely different set of rules. That's not how that works. That's the 14th Amendment, the Equal Protection Clause. Now, has America always lived up to that promise? Hell no. Let's be honest. If we had, we wouldn't have needed the Civil Rights Movement. We wouldn't have needed the Civil Rights Acts, all of those in 1960s. If it had, we wouldn't have had Jim Crow. If we had, we wouldn't have had generations of Black Americans fighting just to be treated equally. But that's exactly why the 14th Amendment became so important. It gave people a constitutional foundation to challenge discrimination by state governments. So when Black Americans hear people talking about the 14th Amendment, we're not just hearing another legal battle. We're hearing the amendment that finally said you were citizens, that you belonged here. We're hearing the amendment that became one of the foundations of the fight for equal treatment under the law. That's why this amendment means something different to us, Black Americans. Not because we think the Supreme Court is about to erase our citizenship, no, but because we know our history. You should know your history. We know there was a time when this country actually argued over whether Black people belonged here. And we know it took a constitutional fucking amendment to settle that fucking question. So yes, pay attention to what the Supreme Court does today. Read the opinion instead of just reading the headlines. Listen to the arguments from both sides. Make up your mind, but don't let fear fill in the blanks where facts don't belong. Because one thing this whole experience taught me is that too many of us, including me at first, were arguing about something we hadn't actually taken the time to understand or read. I think that's the real lesson here. Because I get people in my comment section all the time. 14th Amendment means they can get rid of you Black people. 14th Amendment, it ain't no due process. You can't be nobody no illegal and get due process. Yes, you can. That's what that means. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That's what that means. That means within these borders, within here, that means whoever is in here, whoever's in this country, they have the due process. They get to get due process. That's what that means. Okay? It belongs to all of us. Okay? It belongs to all of us. So, people are going to disagree about all of this today. People are going to disagree about the decision that comes down today. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Okay? This amendment said no more. Okay? We're not expecting to get deported tomorrow. The Constitution is still going to be the same tomorrow. We're still going to have the immigration debate. We're going to keep having the same conversation over and over and over again. Okay? Over and over and over again. We're going to call ourselves informed citizens. Then we owe ourselves to understand the document that's at the center of these debates, that is going to be at the center of this decision today. They should be coming down with their decision soon enough. I'm assuming we're going to hear their decision soon enough. I don't expect people to agree with me or not. It is what it is. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe button. That's not the point. The point is that after today, when somebody tells you they're getting rid of the 14th Amendment, you know enough to say that's not what's going to happen. That's not what's happening. Okay? You should know enough that this amendment is bigger than this one particular part. It's three parts to the 14th Amendment. Equal protection, due process, and the birthright citizenship. They are deciding the birthright citizenship today. They're giving us the decision today. The other two, due process and equal protection, have nothing to do with today's decision. Okay? So everybody has to be an informed citizen, not repeat these talking points you hear online. No, no, no. You have to understand them. And that's a real responsibility every one of us has. Okay? So let's await the decision that they're going to make. They're going to make two other decisions right along with that. Something to do with transgender and something else. I'm not sure what that something else is. And this birthright citizenship. They're only deciding one part of the 14th Amendment. The other two parts are intact. Okay? And nobody's getting deported that is here today. If they make the decision and you're born a week and you have a child that's being born a week from now and you're an illegal alien, your child may not be an American citizen. That's what they're deciding. Everybody else who's here, we here. So stop talking about they're about to deport folks because of the 14th Amendment. That's not how that goes. Future people is what this decision will decide. Future citizenship is what will be decided. So if you like my content, please hit the like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate it. I have this content like every day. I appreciate you guys showing up before the decision. Let's listen to the decision, and I'll be back tonight at 10 o'clock. So maybe we can talk about it then. I don't know, but hopefully it's a decent enough decision that we don't have a lot of people upset and angry and mad. But who knows what the decision is going to be? We don't know. This Supreme Court has been making wild decisions, voting against the president, voting with the president, you name it. So we don't know. So I'll see you guys tonight at 10 o'clock. So, and hopefully we'll have the decision today. My understanding is it'll be today. I don't know. We don't know. So let me read some of the comments in the comment section. I appreciate all you here. Okay. Under the law is the crux of the 14th. Okay. We're not talking about equal protection under the law. We're not talking about that. Read and understand the Constitution. Okay. Okay. Nobody's crying about the Constitution. Nobody's doing that. You should worry about the future of people born here in the future. The people that are here, they're not talking about the people here. They're talking about the people born in the future. Okay. But this is wild. No, it has been interpreted that way. Walking across the border pregnant, it has been interpreted that way for a long time. We never know what they're going to make, the decision they're going to make. It is what it is. Y'all be killing me, Charlie Uninformed. You be killing me. You be killing me. People like you be killing me. I don't know whether it's a low IQ that I attract these kind of people on my freaking channel. I try to give out information, and then some of y'all come here and talk stupid. I don't understand. Up your game. Get into the game. Stop talking stupid. Have a conversation. Nobody's talking about chimping out. That's crazy. That's wild. You see the stuff I have to deal with? That's why I very rarely interact with the people that come in here, because you don't know how to have a conversation. You want to come in and call names. Makes no sense to me whatsoever. But it is what it is. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys this evening. Hey, you. How you doing? Hey, you. Should deport all the blacks. Sure. If we were born here just like you were born here, retard. We were born here just like you, retard. Deport you. I'll see you guys in the evening.